button.
Okay, we're recording.
That doesn't look like a recording because there's no movement.
Make sure you're answering the recording, Smith.
It was dark.
Recording now.
Okay. Wait, is this one?
Yes, that is
For
true.
minutes.
Okay, we're ready, Tom.
Okay, the time is 5:30, call the meeting to order. Those here are Kathy, the chief, the three commissioners, and we have Mike on the line.
Recording
Yes.
command.
Thank you, chief.
Yes.
Fire in the ceiling, Division 1, caused by heating system. No extension. Pattern release, mutual aid.
Okay, call the meeting to order.
Yes.
Start correspondence.
There is no correspondence.
I don't know if there's any public comment.
No.
Okay, I sent you guys the few before yesterday.
EMS. Additional retail change in assignment. Couple of Laconia Central Station. Section 2, Merit EMS.
Total in the
Additional
apparatus
retail change in
fund from
assignment.
December is $760,572.56. Total ambulance revenue collected through December currently is $437,587.27. Apparatus
Can I just ask a question?
Sure.
Is that total from you?
so far, yeah. I expect there'll probably be some adjustments to that. There always
21
is,
ambulance ones.
especially once the auditors come in and look at everything.
And how much, I know it's hard to say, how much is it more than last year?
It's not, it's currently less than last year, but it's, we only budget, in my budget, I budgeted for $415,000, so we're over budget. Next line, so apparatus and equipment funds, money that was budgeted and spent.
Deputy Hubert is joining us.
Oh, okay. So money that was budgeted in 2020 to be spent on
Answering Laconia command.
equipment and certain things, we're well under budget on most of those items, and so there's an additional $78,499.04. These are before the audit, going back into the apparatus and equipment fund. So that's another good thing. For the operating budget, we are 100% through the calendar year of the operating budget, and we expended 96.8% of the voted budget. Again, the books are not closed yet. They're closing usually by near the end of this month, and the auditors are going to begin to do the audit.
The second week of February.
Yes. So we'll know after that where we stand. Currently, it looks like we're $46,613.41 in the black as we ended the fiscal year. But again, as I say, the books are not closed yet, and the auditors will have the final say on that. Any questions on that part? We're good. We're good. All right, moving on to the fire prevention report. There were 49 inspections in December. That report's included in the handout. Okay, move on. The run report for 2020 is also included in the handout. We had 181 incidents for the month, I think, or 180. 123 of those incidents were EMS in nature, equating to 68% of our total incident volume for the
Recording
month.
command from Light Region.
The engine responded with the ambulance to 45 EMS and MBA incidents last month. And the total for responses for the year of 2020 was 2,010 incidents. I included that report that you requested, John.
Yep, appreciate that.
That should have been in there.
Laconia North Street.
Yep,
North
appreciate
Main
it.
Street command from
Did you get a copy papers? Okay, good.
Yes,
It's just nice to see the summary for the year.
Yeah, it's in the bottom. Separate page, separate.
Second packet.
Yeah, keep going. That's it right there.
I asked the chief for a summary of all the calls for the year instead of just a monthly.
from Lakes Region Channel 1.
Moving on to
All
overlapping and
workers have been
simultaneous
notified.
incidents, we
The
had
American
47
EMS
of those last month,
cover assignment.
accounting for 26% of all incidents for the month. Of those 47 incidents, we were able to put somebody on scene 37 times. We received 11 mutual aid ambulance responses. We responded twice with our ambulance mutual aid. We received 4 mutual aid engine responses, and we responded 4 times with our engine on mutual aid. Okay, move forward, Paul.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, engine 3, the cab lift system, the pistons that pick that up are on order. The truck is in service currently, just can't pick it up. Those parts should be in shortly, and then the truck will go back and have that repaired. Rescue 1 just went back in service. It had an air leak in the rear, and we're going to fix that today. So that's back in service.
Engine 3, I don't know your configuration here to service the engine, do the PMCS, preventive maintenance checks and all that. Are you able to access that with the cab down, or do you have to get the cab up to
So
access
the
it?
oil we can check and stuff like that, but to do more expensive than we have to lift it.
But your daily operator type
Yes.
level, you're able to access that
Yes.
without spending? Okay, excellent.
COVID-19, we have no new
24 notes,
unprotected exposures. As you know, we had 2 employees who did contract COVID-19. And we had 1 employee that had to quarantine due to family exposure. Currently, we're seeing a large uptick in the number of local cases, and Northfield has overtaken Tilton in the current number of cases on a per-town basis by a large amount.
Can I ask one question on that?
Yes.
Have you guys all had your shots here? All those who wanted?
All of those who want them have had the first round of shots. The second round, I think, is the first, there's 2 groups. The first group will be January 25th for the second shot, and then about a week after that for the second group.
The other question I'm going to ask you is, when they give you the shot, I talked to somebody, I talked to a place with a
Yep.
and they give you a card, an ID card saying you have it.
Yes. Yep.
Because I think you're going to see in the future, a lot of places going to require that for women, nursing homes and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's certainly, so I'm on the State Disaster Medical Advisory Committee, and that's the committee that actually makes the recommendations on the order of who's getting shots, and also makes recommendations on how that's going to pan out in the future for masks and other protective measures, and we really haven't gotten there yet. There's been discussion, but there's been no consensus. So as that evolves, I can let you know what's going on with that. But right now, there's no consensus on how restrictions will be lessened as time goes on. We just know that they will be, but the timeline. I can say that folks that don't fall into one of the categories, the general population, folks under 50 years of age, things like that, probably won't be able to get a shot probably until May sometime, as it currently stands with the amount of vaccine that we're getting on a weekly basis.
Well, that's when I turned 50, so.
Excuse me? I know 1 voluntarily and one forgot to go or something like that.
Circumstances, they weren't able to go the first round.
So, we do have some people in here that haven't had it, and that's up to their discretion.
Right.
Can I ask how many?
2.
2. That's how the whole, even the volunteers?
Yes.
That's nice, that's great, that's great.
And is there any policy adjustment for the declination?
No.
No.
Okay. I mean, you still use the same expected PPE when you go in?
Yes.
But, okay.
Everything's staying the same currently, and that's per the state guidelines as well.
Yeah.
Until we get some more data on how this is going to work out, I don't see anything really changing. Moving on. Center Street. The reorganization of Center Street to accommodate the new employees is mostly complete. On that note, we ordered 4 lockers for the new employees out of last year's budget, and I talked to Paul over about that before we did that. That was an oversight on our part. We never didn't even think about lockers until it was at the last second. So those have been placed in order, and they come from the prison by the state.
About how much of those?
It's approximately
13C1 in service. 13C1
500, 550, so 550, so 20.
And that came from,
Last year's budget.
as what, the miscellaneous?
No,
No, probably 70 or something like that. It'll be, I don't know where it's documented.
I put it under capital outlay.
Engine 3 in service.
Okay.
Capital outlay what?
Furniture,
Okay.
so we had to plug it somewhere.
So, as the money is, we have a PO for it, so it's encumbered by the PO, but I don't know if it shows that it's expended yet in the report. When I printed those reports. Park Street, we're ready to move forward with the bathroom project. I guess it's up to you, gentlemen, to decide whether you want me to wait to get through the district meeting or just go ahead and move forward with it.
It's a touchy subject on the budget committee.
So maybe we should wait until after the budget committee has their say on it.
How many,
I think the budget committee voted to approve it.
I can't remember if we did or not.
Well, what happened was, is at the meeting, they, a motion was made and seconded to cut it out, bring it back down to what was in the budget for this year. And then that was voted down, and then a motion was made and seconded to put the amount the chief requested into the budget for that repairs and maintenance, and that passed.
And did they approve it?
They approved it.
So,
There's a discrepancy amongst the budget committee as to whether
ADA.
it's necessary to make the bathroom ADA as it is. Because in the previous budget, in the
Last year it
2020
was
budget,
not.
we did not allocate.
3 engine 2 in service.
Last year was just allocated to put a shower in.
Yeah.
But then, with further discussion with the commissioners, we decided that it should be ADA accessible, and that was a decision made by the commissioners, and I agree with that. And so that's why it was bid and all that stuff, and that's why the cost is a little bit more this year. I approved of it, you guys approved of it, I guess now the budget committee approved of it. It hasn't been voted, the overall budget has not been voted at district meeting, but it
We've met for a couple of weeks. So I think this
Friday night.
Friday night, the budget committee is meeting again.
Lake Street answering 6
I
ambulance
guess my feeling is we should, I would hold off myself, hold off until, to make sure they approve it. Before we move forward.
I would rather have it, from my opinion, go before the
6 ambulance
voters.
to
This is
2
something
in
that
Concord
can
Hospital.
be explained to the voters very easily that it,
Mileage
the difference
970.
is because ADA compliance in a public building.
Yes, but there was some beliefs that, well, we've had it this way all these years, why all of a sudden now, do the renovations that are being done mandate that we make it ADA compliant? That was a topic of much discussion.
We should have been doing it for decades.
Why?
So we're finally becoming compliant where we
Well,
can.
I get it.
Being proactive.
I get it, yeah, but, it's,
So where we do hold public meetings here, that makes it a requirement.
right.
And right
And I
now,
think
we're in
that-
violation. If somebody wanted to actually pursue that against us, we would lose, and lose big time.
Well, my next question is, are your thresholds to get into the space ADA compliant? Because if you're gonna make it,
Like these thresholds.
Yep, because theoretically, even if you make that ADA compliant, if those aren't, it still technically is not, even though you could open up a garage door and roll in, it's
Right.
not a passenger, it's not a passenger access per ADA, I'm pretty sure, if it was to be looked at. I'm not a subject.
I'll have some names look at that, and if it isn't, we have, I think, enough money in the maintenance budget to make sure that we can adjust those.
Yeah, I mean, it's a small enough thing. It's not like we gotta do a major ramp up, but we do have to have that pavement threshold for wheelchair.
I'll make sure that gets done.
Yeah, just if we're doing that, we wanna make sure we're compliant on the other side of it as part of, that's my 2 cents, is that we need to make sure that's in there, to at least if we have to put a mound of pavement out there or something, whatever we're required to.
I agree.
Then I get nervous at the electric door opener or things like that.
Anybody else want to know?
It can go on forever if you really want to.
No, if you go at it, you could, all of a sudden, it's $30,000 project. And part of the question was, what's going to happen, it appears, but it's not confirmed that, the next thing, the future of the fire district is going to be out of this building. And how does that come into play,
Have that bathroom that's ADA doesn't hurt it.
No, I know. No, I know, but,
And it doesn't mean that we're going to keep this one.
No, that's the problem.
We're going to get rid
That's
of
the
it either.
problem.
Right, they don't want to invest money
That'll
in
be up to the
the
applicant. If we ever get to that point, it seems like we never really will get there.
Deputy, do you want to say something on that?
It'll be up to the architect to figure out how it comes out.
You guys say something, Tim?
Can't hear you. Thank you, mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I think the biggest thing that we need to to the budget committee is that we've never held public meetings at Washington Station. So it was never, identified or important that we need to be compliant. We always were able to utilize other places like Town Hall and Russell Town Hall. But COVID came, and guess what? This is our reality. It's shown to us that this is something that we need to do. So I think if we explain that to the committee, maybe they'll understand.
Yeah, sorry, I'm putting
All right, moving on. There's tax rate. Zoning board of adjustment approval variance and special exemption for the power. The next step is for the planning committee for the site plan approval, and that probably will take place in February. If not February, it will be March. And the draft survey for the whole tax free parcel is at the state for approval, and a copy of the draft is included in your packet. And I don't know if you all had a chance to see it. Basically, this smaller crescent at the bottom is, well, at the top of it, depends on how you orientate it. But this is the purpose area right there, and that gives us all the frontage on Fox.
Now, when we purchased this, couldn't we take the money out of, we take it out of the building?
Yep.
The fund that the support, I mean, that was a grant, or give it to us.
The fund for
Southwick.
Yeah, support.
There was two things from Southwick's statement. One, I think we already moved into the into the land and building fund. The other portion, we cannot touch the principal. We can only spend the interest.
Yeah.
And the amount of the interest that we get per year is not very much.
So we'd have to come out of, we could take it out of the main budget.
We definitely could. We could take it out of the unreserved fund balance. We could raise and appropriate taxation.
I just hate to go through the taxation when we have the money there. I mean, that's what it's for.
That'll be up to the board to decide how they want to do that. And like I said, this is at the state level right now to make sure the plan is approved by them. And once that plan is approved by them, the surveyor will stamp it and sign it.
And we pay for the survey.
We already paid for it. And that was out of last year's budget. Any questions on that? moving forward, we have new personnel that are scheduled to start on February 1st, and that is pending FEMA approval. The reason it's pending FEMA approval is the official start date of the grant period of performance is February 20th. I had to submit an application for an adjustment to that stop period of February 1st, and it's at FEMA right now, and I'm waiting to hear on that answer.
Now, have we interviewed, we got 4 people that are...
Yes, so the 4 people are actually Travis Gossing, Zach Marco, Ryan Pilo, and Theo Partington. And those folks all are signed up. They're in there.
Now, I do have a question on that.
Yep.
By hiring these 4 guys, all these second calls, third calls, we shouldn't see hardly any of them anymore, I'm hoping. I'm hoping that,
Well,
I'm hoping if there's a second call with the ambulance, if we take the fire truck and 2 guys are with it, then this ambulance sits here for nothing.
well, what will probably happen is if, when we have simultaneous calls, the ambulance will go, if the engine needs to go, 2 guys are going on the engine. If we get another call for the ambulance, those 2 guys are coming back here to grab this ambulance and go.
No.
Because we don't have the ability to keep the ambulance, that's the second ambulance at Center Street, and it's a little difficult.
Deputy Schubert would like to speak.
Go ahead,
Take
Kevin.
your mute off. Can't hear you. Thank you.
So, we've been working on response guidelines for 4 people, and it's a work in progress. But one of the good things about the way that the chief just described it is that the engine, the verb, go to the incident, and then anybody on the call company that's available can take the ambulance to the incident. We'll have 2 EMS providers, and Wayne, Tommy, people that are usually available can then take the engine back as well. So it's a work in progress for us, but it does give us a little bit more flexibility about who can drive the ambulance to an incident at a time.
I know, but all I'm saying is, if we go to a call, the engine goes, that means all 4 of them go. That leaves nobody here to take that if it's during the day and there's nobody around. So we're kind of defeating the purpose by sending 4 guys, and here we are, we're going to have to call them back up. To me, you're going to have to call a second ambulance if nobody takes it. I mean, look at the number of second calls we got here. If that don't dwindle a little bit, or dwindle in half or more than half, then we're defeating the purpose.
So the amount of second calls and third calls, that's not going to change. It's our ability to handle those second and third calls.
And I understand that. I know it's not going to change, but we hired 4 more guys so we would take care of someone, take care of most of them.
Yeah, so we'll, instead of using mutual aid at the numbers that we're using them now, that number will go down dramatically. Not the number of calls.
No, I know the calls aren't going down. That's irrelevant. The number of people handling second call. Not only that, but when you got a fire truck that's way up in Locklear, you got 4 guys up there. To send them back to get an ambulance is, you know.
So what will probably happen if we have a second call, and say they're in Locklear or down that section of town, and we get another call, and we have a call person come in, no matter who that call person is, they can respond with the ambulance to the call, and the engine will respond from Locklear to wherever that other call is. And so we'll have an ambulance on scene, an engine on scene. Those 2 guys from the engine will go on the ambulance and handle the patient here, and then the person, whoever brought the ambulance to the call, will take the engine back to the fire station. So it's going to be more efficient, and as we do this, and get experience as to what's the best way to operate, because this is the first time we're operating with 4 people on duty at a time. We'll get more experience as to how to best operate, and it's a work in progress, and we'll get it done. It'll be much more efficient, I promise.
Well, I hope so. I'd like to, I mean, if these numbers still second call, you know, we call in mutual aid all the time, people are going to look at it and say, yeah, you guys just hired 4 guys for nothing.
Yeah, so
And I don't want that. I don't want to make us look like we were stupid by hiring these 4 guys.
you won't. The mutual aid use will go down dramatically, and what will also happen is, since we'll be transporting those patients, our revenue for ambulance transportation will go up.
you know, it's nice to have the revenue, but there again, we're not in business, you know, the business is transporting people in the community, here to transport people. It's not about the money, well, it's nice to have the money, don't get me wrong, but we're in this business to take care of people. That's what the taxpayers pay for us for, to take care of people, and they expect that. So, and like I said, I just told them, the number of calls for them, I mean, not the calls, but the second calls.
The mutual aid calls will go
But
down.
the second calls aren't going to go down.
No, not second calls, but
It's our
be us to be able to
inability
handle the second calls.
I mean, if they get called out, you know, to a major crash out on Route 3 somewhere, and the ambulance and they're both responding, and 10, 15 minutes later, you know, someone on this side of town has, you know, needs an ambulance, well, they got to take care of that, and yeah, there may have to be a mutual aid. I mean, that's just
The mutual aid's not going to go away. There'll be times when we
Well,
still
I
have to use
understand
mutual
that.
aid,
I
but
understand
the
that.
number of times that we have to use mutual aid, I think will be much less than what we are using it now.
I think another thing that you will see is response from tone to scene will go down. Because instead of having just the one person to respond potentially from the station, you'll now have two people who are responding in the engine, even if it's an intercept concept, as you said, and then the ambulance gets out there by the deputy, the chief, or a call force. But you now have EMS personnel, not the transport, getting to the scene quicker because they're out there. Even, I mean, you got to look at we're a big district, and they could be over here training for the day and then be responding out there. So at least they're on the road with a device. I'm not keen on how much the engine, hopefully not going to be sending an engine to every EMS call.
I hope.
Right.
Deputy Robinson would like to speak.
Yep.
Deputy, unmute yourself, please.
Yep, thank you, Kathy. Well, and the other thing, Paul, that we've discussed at officers' meetings, we've tasked ourselves, you know, to think of a new way of operating that, you know, maybe on an alarm activation, you know, one discussion we had that because we're headed to an alarm activation, maybe the right vehicles is an engine in an ambulance. Many times for alarm activations, and again, a lot of it's the tempo of the call. At 10 o'clock in the morning, you get an alarm activation at the mall. You sign on, and there's no backup of somebody saying, you know, smoke visible. Probably a pretty good chance somebody hit a pole station, it was an accident. So now you've got, and again, part of the discussion was, you've got an ambulance with you with two guys in it, one guy in it, however we work it out, because there is an 18 to 26% chance that we're going to have a second call, and there is a 72% chance that that next call is going to be a medical. So, you know, a lot of that, a lot of discussion going on, and it's just not going to be same old, same old. The goal is to improve response and improve response time to the second call. Thank you.
Okay, I guess we'll see how it goes.
Moving on, Fire Station Committee, we already gone over that. Currently working on implementing the current SAFER grant. We've completed the hiring process, except for the physicals. They still have to do their physicals. But they're scheduled for that. The COVID-19 grants, we awarded $9,121 for reimbursement for expenses. I did submit another application in December for the second round. I don't know what our chances of that are when I read the fine print on the notice of funding opportunity. They're going to give it to people who haven't had one first before they start giving it to people who were awarded one earlier. So I don't know what our chances are. It was only for somewhere between $2 and $3 grand. So it's not a big one, but every little bit helps. The 2020 AFG grant, the application period opened on January 4th, and I sent out an email to everybody for ideas on that. I've got one idea so far, and if I can get a few more ideas, I'll see which is the best justified, and we'll go with that and see if we can get that grant.
What are the odds of trucks being in there? I know you don't.
0.
Really?
Yeah. So they have, when the notice of funding opportunity comes out, there's priorities, and the vehicles is one of the sections. So, but they're replacing vehicles from the 1970s and 80s before they replace anything that we have. And most of those vehicles go to departments that are really poor. So I wouldn't even bother applying for it. It would be turned off like that. That's not one of their funding opportunities. So once I get a better ideas, I'll let all the grant applications. Still currently working on the 2021 budget. We have a budget committee meeting this Friday evening. Always working on town property improvement, which is very difficult in this COVID time. And also working on the capital improvement program. And of course, you know what our priorities are with the new engine and then the new ambulance. That completes my report for January. Any questions? Any other questions?
I did have a couple in this section. So we only applied for full-time on the SAFER. I know that the SAFER, you can also go for call force recruitment. And we could be looking at the pros and cons of looking into that for a recruitment process. I'm not sure what they do for trainings and things like that. I didn't deal into it that much. But where the call force is a weaker resource we have just to get them, is that something that has benefit?
So the notice of funding opportunity for the 2020 SAFER grant, which now will be called out now, hasn't come out yet.
Okay.
So before that comes out, they have seminars, theater seminars that I attend, that give us the funding priorities and the best way to ask for funds is not going to our plans and stuff like that. So I can't really answer that stuff. But when it does come around, I'm really not here.
Just see the pros and cons of it. Another question on the SAFER grant, because I understand that there's mixed feelings on the SAFER grant, and we'll probably hear about it at budget meeting. If the public shoots down the department funding portion of the SAFER grant, where are the commissioners going with that? Because now we're investing money that's not approved by the public to go forward. So we voted to go forward based on move forward with the exams and stuff from the current budget.
We had a public hearing on that in the summer.
Right.
And we voted to accept the grant.
We voted to accept the grant, right. But now because there is a small portion that has to come from the district itself, as each year going forward, not even though wages and benefits are covered by the grant, but there's still other like the foot lockers or the wall lockers, as an example. There's a few minute percentage of the, right. If the taxpayers vote to say no, any funding of that is none.
Well, the commissioners have the final say on the appropriated, whatever is appropriated, the commissioners have the final say on how that is expended.
And I understand it's a bottom line budget. However, if they vote otherwise, the commissioners do have a fiduciary responsibility to respect how the voters feel. Because you've already said that it's been looked into a little bit more in detail, so I'm pretty sure we'll hear about it in very precise amounts.
Yep, there's a possibility responsibility, but it's gonna come down to both, really, what it's gonna come down
Correct.
to. And, you know, we've acted in good faith,
Yes.
you know.
Do we have any idea what the taxpayers are gonna pay for?
The first year.
Well, that was my,
Well, you know, like gear and this year, whatever we.
Set up in first year.
Yeah. Maybe we ought to have something so that, you know, because they could come out with, yeah, you're going to spend an extra $20,000, which I don't believe it's 20,000, you know, but we ought to have a number to present to them and say, look, this is what it's going to cost taxpayers to hire these 4 guys. We got to buy gear. There's no doubt about it. We got to have the physicals.
Uniforms, physicals.
Yeah, and we ought to have you know, what it actually costs
Yeah,
to let them know.
Yeah, and identify what's already been covered in the previous year, so that's not what they're looking at
we
now.
had actually that at the last meeting, which is,
I had all that broken down.
You did, when we had the big one, but I just think this is gonna resurface.
well, I had a question, I'm trying to say. No, you said something, and then I'm like, oh wait, that is something. Do we know what the impact, because I think one of the biggest impact areas is health insurance. Do we know what their
You have to plan
requirements
for the
are?
worst. Yeah.
No, I know we've planned for the worst, but do we know, are we gonna be hit with the worst, or do we know that yet?
We don't know that, we can't ask that.
Okay, no, I just didn't know if that's, if we've learned based on, when is their insurance effective?
It would be, if they're hired February 1st, it's effective February 1st.
Okay, so we'll know on February 1st what the impact is.
Absolutely.
Okay. So we will know at some point,
So-
Yes.
before the district meeting.
That is correct.
We can't really ask them until after they've passed all their background check, which is all done, and their physicals. And once they pass the physicals, they come in and they fill out all the stuff with
Right.
Kathy, and that's really where we find out.
Once you offer.
Well,
Do
that's what I'm
they
saying.
need a
Like,
family plan? Are they on a single
Right.
plan? Are they taking an opt-out because they're
So
on?
before we have a public hearing on the budget, before we
We'll
have
have
all
their-
these things,
the financial-
we're gonna be able to say, you know, when they get returned these forms, you know, it could be 4 single plans,
Yep.
1 person plan. Hey, that's pretty good, because that helps us.
Yes.
But they could change it.
It could be-
Depending on your enrollment periods.
And open enrollment is in January.
Okay.
Well,
Okay,
it's
so
December.
we'd be kind of set for the year with that.
You know, if we
Right.
have 4 family plans, well, okay, you know, then we're gonna, you know, then it's the worst case scenario. We don't know. So,
Well, I can truthfully tell you, we're not going to have 4 family plans.
well, I'm just saying, so we're gonna be not worst case scenario and not best case scenario, so we're in the middle.
Right.
And
At
hopefully,
least stop on this stuff.
yeah.
Right.
That is
You never
correct.
know.
Right, you
No,
could
that's
have a
true.
life-changing event of a birth, and then
Right,
that could trigger, allow them.
it could.
Just my concern with this is that we're now hiring February 1st, if we get the amendment to the February 20th, and say March 15th, it goes completely the wrong way. Now, we've just started people, and that percentage, which wages and stuff is, like we said, we know it's coming from this piece, so that's not a direct impact. But there is the other impact. Just been thinking about this a lot. I mean, I fully support getting the person on board, but I also, based on what we've heard and looking at timelines and looking at the February 20th I was looking at to March 15th, and now if we do go for the adjustment which we've submitted to February 1st, are we stepping into the mud?
Definitely the number regardless.
I know, but
And that we have to
Just
stay
doing the-
positive and hope that people, I think most people, especially the people that came to that meeting, they understood that there's a cost, it's an investment cost, because we, you know, okay, if it's gonna cost us $30,000 for, you know, $300,000 or $350,000 for this year's portion of the grant.
I just hope for the best and plan for the worst. That's just how I've done operational stuff, and
Yep.
you plan for the worst case, but you're hoping that's not what you have to step into. You're hoping that it goes a lot on the other side, and it's just good fortune.
And a lot of it too depends on who shows up at district meeting. because,
Pray for nice weather, so everyone can show up.
yeah, let's hope it's not like.
Pray
last
for a
year's.
meeting, I mean, you know, let's not run into last year's issue.
Well, there's a SB2 is going to probably be taken up this week, which is Senate Bill number 2 in the House, in the Senate, and then we'll go to the House where if COVID is bad, the law is going to say that special village districts, towns and stuff can, month by month, postpone their business meetings and stuff like that.
Okay, that's where we ran into
That's where
trouble
the
last
problem
year.
is, because now we're going further into
Right,
the,
Yeah.
that's where we ran into
Right.
July.
So that's something that
we don't want.
we probably don't want that to happen.
We're not
But
SB2
we may
towns
not,
either.
No.
we may not, we're not SB2, but it doesn't
Sanford's
matter.
is, I think.
Yes,
Yeah.
Sanford's an SB2 town, but Tilton and Northfield are traditional town meetings.
Right.
So it's up to the moderators.
And the moderators can, probably with guidance of the selectmen and stuff, say, you know, COVID is so bad right now, we should probably postpone it a month and see what happens. That's going to be, that's going to be taken up this week. And, you know, I don't know what's going to happen. But it has pretty large support from what I can tell in the House
Had
and
a year
the
to try
Senate.
to work on it, because I'm better off than we were last year, so.
yeah. That'd be a
I'm not
nice,
trying to open up a can of worms, I don't think we're any better off trying to figure this out
Yeah,
in terms of how these meetings are going to be held.
that was all my questions on the chief's report portion of it.
Anything else?
No,
Deputy Robinson, did you want to say anything again?
I did, thank you, Kathy. I think the other thing that's important that we probably keep track of or watch very closely, with the grant, with the extra people, we're going to be generating extra revenue. You know, we lose 11 calls a month to mutual aid on an ambulance. If we can recover 50% of those at $1,200 average per call, of which we only probably collect 60%, that's about $3,500 a month. Times 12 months out of the year, there's a potential for $40,000 gain in revenue with the ambulance. Now, does that help counteract the objections that you're getting where you had to buy them gear? Well, guess what? We generated an extra $40,000 to buy their gear. I mean, it's just something to keep in the back of your mind. Maybe something we as administrators need to watch as we try to justify and prepare ourselves, you know, for possibility of objections.
I appreciate that and agree.
Anything else? Anybody? Let's move on. Old business.
I had a question on this. On the correspondence that was sent out to us, we had February 1st start date for new firefighters pending FEMA approval, and it was removed from the one that was placed in front of us tonight.
And the chief brought it up under his report.
Okay, so that's which I remember we talked about, I just didn't, okay, so.
And the same with the
You
state,
incorporated it in.
and the same with the state land acquisition.
Yeah.
Yep, and I didn't see that.
So remember that, this is the draft
Yep.
thing because I didn't have a chance to consult with Kathy before.
Yep, no problem.
Okay, we already discussed the state land acquisition.
Yep.
We're
Okay.
up to review minutes.
Now we got new business. Any new business?
Yeah.
Tim, do you have new business?
No.
Okay.
Anybody?
Mike? Nope. Okay.
Good, thank you.
Okay, we can hold off on the review minutes. We'll do that last.
That is last.
Oh, it is, non-public, you've got no non-public? No?
I handed, no, there is no non-public tonight because we don't have the disposition report yet. I'm hoping to have them next Wednesday.
Okay.
Okay, we'll do the minutes of December 22nd, 2020, and December 22nd, 2020, non-public.
So I saw on page 3 of the 22 meeting. It's just, it's a grammatical thing, and I'm not the best at grammar, so people help me out on that. But the page started off, Commissioner Silly asked if the positive cases were due to exposure to line duty. Kathy replied that it was. Should be it was, or they were, because it was plural people exposed for COVID.
Asked if it was due to line of duty.
For both.
For both, and I replied,
It was, so, okay. That's why I said I don't know, when I went through this, I caught that. Like I said,
it probably should have been were, but I might have said was.
okay, I'm fine. Like I said, I'm not the best when it comes to grammar, but it just didn't sound right.
When we were talking, you know,
So I'm fine with it other than that. That was the only thing I noticed when I read through, I was comfortable with.
Did you review them?
So what?
Did you review the minutes?
Yes, but that, I did it last year. Last year, remember this year.
Somebody want to make a motion?
I make a motion to approve the minutes. December 22nd, 2020.
We move to second, all those in favor? I make a motion to approve the minutes of December 22nd, 2019.
Did you make a motion?
Yeah, yeah.
I'll second.
We move to second, all those in favor? No? Any other business?
I got a couple.
sign of the whatever.
We gotta pass the slide.
Oh.
Oh, look at that,
You
we're
said
ahead of
you
it.
You got another one here.
Oh,
You said you had something?
I did. Okay. So one of the things I had under any other businesses was the safer grant, the public impact. So we already covered that one earlier.
we meet next week, right?
Yes, on
So
Wednesday.
I'll be able to update that a little bit better after Friday's meeting.
Okay.
Yes.
So I just remembered that was, now the other thing is, last year, because of the time of the COVID hit, how does the commissioner board address evaluations? Last year, I know we didn't do a chief's evaluation because we just dropped right into COVID and we were running behind the engine till now. So I assume it would be non-public, so expectations and things like that. When would we do that? Before the vote, or before the district meeting, or after the new commissioner would be, or we just didn't do it last year. It's probably something that should be kind of
Customarily, it's done in January.
okay. Did you have it on there?
This is what January looks like.
Right.
So I have a calendar if you guys want to set up.
Okay. It's just that it's one of those things that we didn't do it all last year. It's probably appropriate that we do sit down with the chief and look at his goals, where he's going, because we already talked a little bit earlier in the year about possible transition down the road. So things like that, as well as the commissioner's expectation. How that would be done, I don't know. It's just been something I wanted to bring up here.
We did have, I thought we had something, a guideline once, we went by, and I remember we did once.
Yeah.
I wasn't,
We just haven't done one. I've done 2 years now. We haven't.
I think Pat Black put something together a while back.
I thought we had some type of guideline, and we just, there are several questions that we all
No, I just, February 2nd, be our next meeting. Next Tuesday.
yes.
But there should be some like a performance rubric or expectations from the commissioners, as well as what the chief's goals sees for the department, and kind of the self-evaluation and things like that. It's just kind of, I don't know how they've done it, when they've done it, or anything like that. So I don't know if you had a cart built
I
or.
think the last time we did this,
It's a while ago.
Paul Blaisdell kind of ran the show, and what we did is we took my job description and went through it line by line, basically, to see if I was meeting my job description.
So we might
That was
want to
pretty much
schedule-
it.
plan of scheduling or something of, I just didn't know time periods or shifting of commissioner roles and things
I
like
wonder
that.
if you could, you don't know where that guideline is, or,
Yeah, because that's a commissioner document, I don't really.
Now, would it be something that should be kept on record in the,
It should be, but I don't have it.
okay.
It
Is
should
it,
be in his personnel file.
right, which you
But it
would
was
be
never,
the keeper of.
right, but it's never been turned over.
Because Kathy's not at that meeting.
Right, right, it would be a non-public, just the four of us.
Don't want to be there.
Nope, totally, and that's how I would expect it would be run. It's a non-public sit down and the four of us discuss it and then all that.
Because that had some pretty good things in it. I remember, I don't remember all of them, but I do remember there was 15, I think there was 15 questions or something like that.
Right.
And you're right, I think you brought it up, you had the guidelines, and we could fit in here and there.
And you don't have your copy of it?
I never received a copy.
Okay.
It was just a sit down, and I guess one of the commissioners probably should have put something on paper and probably gave
Put it
that
in
to
your
Kathy
file.
for my file.
Exactly.
But that didn't take place, as far as I know. I haven't looked at my file.
It's not in there.
And then she's the keeper, but is it possible either the chair or the administrator can reach out to the chairman of the time when you did that? It sounds like it was Paul Blaisdell. See if he may have a copy somewhere, or as a draft, as a sample draft, not as the, but kind of something. Like
Maybe
it's,
we'll call him, and I'll try Pat Clark too, because I think Pat Clark was on it too, if I remember right.
For him, you're going back,
Yeah,
I think,
go back 5-6 years, I think.
at least.
yeah, maybe it was Paul Blaisdell.
Wait, how long did she fit?
that's on trigger.
It was done, the evaluation was done the first year.
Well,
After his first
who
year.
took Pat's place?
Dennis?
I took Paul.
Dennis.
Dennis took it.
Okay.
And Dennis, I think it was Dennis and Paul and me that did it. You're right, I think it was Dennis.
In the 6 years I've been, 6 complete years, almost 7 now, I've had 2 evaluations.
Which is
One-
not fair on you.
One my first year, after my first year, and that was with Pat Clark. And then during the time when Paul Blaisdell, I believe you, and Dennis Manning, and that one I remember specifically, we went over my job description line by
Yes.
line, section by section,
Yep.
to see if I was meeting the job description. And we basically determined that I was,
Good.
and that was the end of it.
So, you able to reach out to a couple of members and see if they might have a document somewhere? Something, and then are you gonna plan a schedule, or?
Do we pick a date there? We ought to have some type of guideline, no? I mean,
Yes.
So if you want to pick a date, I will follow up with Paul to make sure.
Because it has to be a non-public as well.
And that should be a separate night from the regular meeting.
Yeah. Even if it's early February, so I just don't know when they've ever done it, and I just,
When are we going to have public hearings?
Yes, we scheduled those
Maybe
for February 8th.
Oh, yeah, there it is. The public hearing.
Yeah, Friday night. We'll have to advise the budget committee of that.
Are you going to turn stuff up tomorrow?
I'll be bringing my calendar.
I got my calendar.
so they have a, budget committee has one for the 8th, huh?
Right.
This Friday night.
And I'm sure they'll be having on the 15th.
so
And
you think they won't, you're not close to finish up yet? I don't know how many you've had.
they've gotten up to personnel,
I think we got it for salaries.
salaries and labor.
And then
And that
there
stopped
was
it.
discussion, then there was a motion to adjourn, and that was it.
Yeah.
I would say you might want to do it late January, early February, somewhere in there, just to make it easier, because the budget committee is involved and stuff. The chief's going to be involved in that. I mean, there's just, right now, it's focus should be budget more than anything, I think.
We'll do the first week of February, what's,
All right, so Monday the 1st, there is nothing. Tuesday is a regular meeting. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday are You don't have anything planned?
And the first is the Northfield Planning Committee, so if the station might be home, you should be there at that.
What about 7?
The 8th is the public hearings.
What day is that?
That is on a Monday.
It could be Wednesday, Thursday?
No,
No?
no, please. Trying to get away.
You trying to get away that week?
Just the 10th, the 11th, and 12th.
Well, what about Tuesday?
I could do that. Tuesday the 9th,
Eric,
Which one?
the 9th?
of February. Golf hasn't started yet, right?
I would have a planning, I probably would have a planning review that night.
I wish.
But whatever.
I'm practicing playing. Deadwood and 18.
Pray for no snow, I guess. But my commute's changed now.
I mean, you have the week of January 25th as well, which we don't have any fire stuff yet.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, we could,
I put it in there.
27th, 25th?
I
27th or what?
I can do either.
Well, when's school be? Because of the holiday on the 18th.
School is still meeting on the 18th, Martin Luther Day, and then there's a capital improvement, non-public or whatever on the 19th.
All right, so let's do the
Wait a
27th.
second.
I will put T.
You writing it on there for me, Paul? Okay, good. Set down the time, and then I will redo the calendar after Friday and send it out.
So we said January 27th? Or what did you say?
27th.
Wednesday, okay.
5:30.
And non-public is, that would be the only topic
I
there.
don't even put that part down. I just put it.
Well, it's just that way the public knows in the agenda is a non-public for personnel matter. That's the only way we do
Well, when it's
it.
posted, that's what I post.
Yeah, so there's no other business, no other reason. It's just,
And I'll call Boise now. So I don't know if we
Can
don't.
I have my
then-
calendar back?
no.
Please, I'll send you a new one after, the first of the week.
And if not,
After the
then
meeting
we'll
on
have
Friday.
to be getting a template or something, or building. Well, we have the job description as the base template.
Well, that's what I think we used that
Yep.
last time. Can we get a copy of that?
I'll email you all about it.
Thank you.
Because I think that's, I'm pretty sure that we used last time.
That's what it should be. That's, I mean, that's the job description. That would be the rubric and how it's,
Because I think all we did is, we went through it one by one.
Yep.
And if anybody had any questions about that.
how the-
I'm sure he's gonna have a bar call on this.
Did you say what time?
5:30.
it would just be nice if you hadn't passed one, because then it could be a, this is where we were, and this is where we are now.
All right.
I did one my first year. I don't
So while we're on this subject, where are you going to have it? If you have it here, there are going to be people walking
Yes.
in and out. Yeah,
There is a underground room or a basement room at the Northfield Town Hall. That could be a private room.
I don't have access to that.
Northfield Town Hall. You wouldn't have access to that.
I don't have access to Northfield.
Okay, they would allow us to use the room,
Yeah.
and we come in and we go,
yeah, the moldy room.
yeah, to the downstairs room.
Oh,
Hey, I'm offering solutions. It's that or request
I have
a
a
conference
question.
room at the Pines.
does it have to be held in town, in the district?
You can hold it wherever you want because it's non-public.
Shoot us or something?
No, no,
I wasn't even gonna joke about that on camera.
At the resort I work at, we have a meeting room that we're not using.
Where's that?
Waterville. The other thing is Pines does have a conference room, so we can reach out to Pines, see if, and there'd be space enough there, even their small conference room, we could get 4 people in
Yeah, it's
there.
just for the board room.
Right.
Library?
I'm not sure they have a separate meeting room.
I don't think so.
So we could try Northfield Town Hall, for, Heinz.
The next corner booth.
All right, I'll check with Northfield Town Hall and Hines.
Yeah,
Oh, what?
no. We don't know if Tilton North, Town Hall will be open or not.
Right.
Right.
Or if that's supposed to be reevaluated this week, I believe.
Oh, okay.
Or by the 15th, like, whatever the Thursday before the 15th is. Is the 15th a Monday?
No, the 15th is Friday.
Well, that's when we're currently closed through. So whatever, this
So
week,
The 14th, they'll be reviewing it?
this week, yeah, or this week even, I don't know. So I just got an email that may change that.
We have a couple of options to try for.
Yeah, I'll check with all of them and see what's available.
Have it in my office.
Two tight quarters.
So,
I want distance between us.
Trips in the meeting room.
I want distance between us.
And they're moving in February 8th, but it's gotta be close to being done.
Is that
Knock on wood, unless it's been delayed since December, you know, that was originally supposed to be.
Anything else, guys? Come on.
No? Motion to adjourn?
Okay, all those in favor?
The next meeting date is January 13th.
Next meeting date, January
13th.
13th.
That is correct.
Over now.
Bye, Mike.
Good night. Thanks, guys, for joining us.
Okay, it says recording pause. Go ahead and stop now.
Yes.